Lots of lifts come naturally. You don't consciously plan out to lift a toddler, but you do it carefully, so they're as safe in the air as they are on the ground. And that's the principle of all lifting, right up to loads like this. If you're a slinger, then making sure the load is safe is down to you. And remember, if it slips, it could be down on you. So it pays to plan ahead to get it right. There are 7 main steps needed to plan the slinging of every load, large or small. So let's call them the significant 7. Tick them off in your head as you tackle any load, and you're sure to do a better slinging job. So what's the first thing you need to know about a load? Right. How heavy is it? So number 1, check the weight. Luckily, the load here is marked, but it won't always be. But until you know what the load weighs, you can't go on. And while you're at it, how big is it and where are you going to put it?
Hey, there's no weight on the big one, Sid.
Are you sure? I'll have to check the docket. Hold on. No, you're right. There's nothing here. I'll have to phone the planning office.
If there's no record of the weight, then maybe the manufacturers can tell you. If nobody knows, then your engineers will have to do their calculations and work it out. What about the area you're lifting into? Is it clear? Have you got suitable supports ready for the load when it's put down? Step 2 is choosing the right sling. The first question to ask is, how can the sling be fitted to the load? Some loads have nice convenient lifting points, such as this dynamo eye bolt. But remember, a dynamo eye bolt is only good for a vertical lift. And of course, you've got to remove the coupling and holding down bolts before you can make the lift. If you have to lift at an angle, then use a collar eye bolt with a shackle. Or an eye bolt with a link. Some other loads, like this motor, may have built-in lifting lugs. But watch out, the lugs on the cover are for lifting the cover only, and not the whole motor. And if you're not sure about them, then it's better to play safe and find another method. If there's no convenient lifting point, then your sling will have to go round the load. Some loads will give you no help at all. Hard to get hold of, heavy, or just awkward. When professional slingers are on the job, even the largest load can be lifted smoothly and safely. The key is choosing the right sling. This is going to get a bit complicated, but we'll do the easy things first. A chain sling will mark the machine surfaces of this delicate load, so a round sling can save you a lot of problems. On the other hand, the load itself could damage the sling, so protective padding must be used where there are sharp edges. A round sling can very soon be cut through. Even a wire rope or chain sling will eventually be damaged and weakened by sharp-edged loads. Always use packing on sharp edges to protect the slings. But it's not just the material of the sling that counts. How many legs will you need, and how long? Lifting a load like this on a single-legged sling is asking for trouble. It's going to swing about all over the place and probably slip out of the sling altogether. Lifting with a two-legged sling supports the load safely. But look, the legs are too short to fit the load properly, and the angle is all wrong. This is much better. 2 long legs. You can't beat them. So we've got the right type of sling, but can it stand the weight of the load? Is the SWL, that safe working load, of the sling greater than the weight of the load? Now for the safety angle. This is the complicated bit. The angle between the slings is called the included angle, and this is critical. The wider the spread or greater the angle, the greater the load in the legs. For example, at this angle the load is 0.48 tons, but increase the angle and up goes the loading. You'll find multi-legged slings are usually marked with one SWL for 0 to 90 degrees and another for 90 to 120 degrees. This one shows that the sling is safe to lift 5.4 tons at any included angle up to 90 degrees and 4.5 tons between 90 and 120 degrees. It's the slinger's job to cover all angles. Check that the included angle is no bigger than 90 degrees. That's a right angle like the corner of a table. Sometimes slings are marked with the SWL at 90 degrees or at 60 degrees, for example. At other angles, you'll have to estimate the actual included angle and then use a chart to get the right SWL.
2 leg. 2 ton, 2.1 there at 90, 2 ton will be okay.
If the sling is not marked for use at an angle and you don't know how to work out the SWL, then simply don't use it.
2 ton, 2 leg.
So, with the sling selected by type, size, number of legs and SWL, you can get on with the job and get the sling from the stores, although we're still not at step 3. First, there's a bit of paperwork to be done to keep track of the gear and who's got it.
Write the sign to it then. There you are.
Cheers.
2 ton, 2 leg.
All lifting gear should be kept in a suitable store. Don't leave it lying about on the shop floor where it can get scuffed and go rusty. If there's not enough tackle to warrant a proper store, then at least a rack can be provided, and someone should be responsible for looking after the gear.
Cheers.
Before using the sling, it's a good idea to check it over, even though it's come straight from the store. If you spot any damage, take it straight back. Tell the storeman and make sure the sling is labelled. You don't want anybody else dicing with a dodgy sling, now do you? Now we're ready for significant step 3. Fitting the sling to the load. But how are you going to do it? Basket hitch is no good at all, because the load will certainly slip. The right solution here is to use choke hitch to grip the load firmly. It's important to check the position of the load center of gravity, which will always position itself directly below the lifting point, the crane hook. When the slings are positioned off-center Then as soon as the load is lifted, it can swing violently and could score a direct hit. So positioning the sling with the hook over the center of gravity is a lifesaver. When you have to lift a load with an offset center of gravity like this, then you'll have to use sling legs of different lengths and having different angles to get the center of gravity under the hook. This means that the sling legs will take different loads. These legs are supporting the heavy end, so they will take most of the weight. If you've not been trained how to do this, then don't attempt it. It could be amputation or being lifted into the air by the fingers or gloves. Let's start again. There's the correct signal and up we go. But not very far. It's good practice to check your slings are correctly positioned and the load hangs level. This load is still not right, so it's lowered. Then the slinger repositions the sling. That's much better. Ideally, only one man, the slinger, should give the signals. The crane driver should ignore all other signals except for the emergency stop. Now you can put the load down. A tagline will help. Check again that the area is clear and that everyone else is clear. Check that the load can be properly supported. It's surprising how many slingers trap their own feet. No crossed toes here, though. That's step 5. Setting the load down safely. Now we can release the slings. See how the bearer makes releasing the slings easier without the need for the crane dragging them out. Dragging them out damages the slings and can pull the load over, like this. Hooking back the slings prevents the risk of someone being hit by the swinging legs, but a safety helmet is always a good idea. So that's step 6, releasing the sling safely. So what's the last of our significant 7 steps? Easy. It's the clear up. Now let's see a quick action replay of that simple lift and see how many of the significant 7 safety steps you can remember. 1. You've got to know how much the load weighs before you can start. 2. Choosing your sling depends on how you're going to lift the loads, the sling material, the number of legs you need, and the included angle. 3. Fitting the sling means watching out for the load's center of gravity and choosing the best slinging method. You never lift a load until you check it's free and the area it's going into is clear. 4. Don't lift it high until you've checked the sling and cleared everyone away from the lift. 5. Set the load down using a tagline. Remember also to avoid your own feet. 6. Release the slings without dragging them out and damaging them. And when you take slings back to the stores, point out any problems, any damage. Finally, 7. Clear up the site and you're ready for the next lift. Plan your slinging that way and any load, large or small, will be as safe in the air as it is on the ground.